Have you ever sat in a darkened cinema, popcorn in hand, watching Charlton Heston part the Red Sea? Or perhaps you were glued to the screen as Elizabeth Taylor, draped in gold, embodied Cleopatra. But what if I told you the picture was incomplete? The faces on the screen were never meant to be the faces of ancient Egypt. Today we're peeling back those layers, exposing the truth about how Hollywood has distorted our understanding. Click on the YouTube card to watch a video about how ancient Egyptians were black-skinned Africans. Let's be clear. When you picture a pharaoh, what do you see? Is it Yul Brynner in the Ten Commandments or Joel Edgerton as Ramses in Exodus? Hollywood has made a fortune casting white actors as Egyptian royalty. These were African rulers born from African bloodlines. It's time to face facts. Let's talk about appearances. Hollywood has a particular aesthetic in mind when it portrays ancient Egyptians, doesn't it? Straight noses, thin lips, a certain European sensibility that wouldn't be out of place in Rome or Athens. But again, this is a distortion, a carefully constructed illusion designed to distance ancient Egypt from its African roots. Take a look at the statues, the hieroglyphics, the intricate death masks that have survived for centuries. Do they depict a people who could be mistaken for European? Or do they show the rich diversity of the African continent? Hollywood insists on perpetuating this myth of European beauty standards, erasing the true faces of ancient Egyptians from our screens. This myth of European features goes hand in hand with the pervasive idea that ancient Egyptians were, well, light-skinned. It's as if the sun-drenched deserts, the scorching heat that defines Egypt, somehow skipped over its ancient inhabitants. Let's be clear, archaeological evidence, DNA analysis, and even written accounts from ancient Greek scholars all point to one undeniable fact. Ancient Egyptians were a dark-skinned people. Their lineage, their culture, their very existence was interwoven with the African continent. Hollywood has a way of papering over reality, casting actors of European descent and expecting us to swallow this fabricated version of history without question. Here's another trick Hollywood likes to pull. It presents ancient Egypt as this isolated entity, a shining beacon of civilization surrounded by, well, not much of anything. This couldn't be further from the truth. Ancient Egypt didn't exist in a vacuum. It was part of a vibrant network of African civilizations intrinsically linked to Nubia, Kush, and other kingdoms that flourished along the Nile. There was trade, intermarriage, a constant flow of ideas and cultural exchange, but you wouldn't know that from watching most Hollywood films. So we've talked about whitewashed pharaohs, European features, and the persistent myth of light skin. All of these distortions feed into a larger, more insidious narrative, the erasure of Egypt's African identity. Hollywood has presented ancient Egypt as a Mediterranean civilization, a Middle Eastern society, anything but what it truly was, a proud and powerful African kingdom. Think about the music used in films set in ancient Egypt. The sweeping orchestral scores, the hints of Arabic influences. Rarely, if ever, do we hear the rhythms, the melodies, the soul of African music. This erasure, this cultural whitewashing, has real-world consequences. Let's talk about Cleopatra. Hollywood's Cleopatra, from Claudette Colbert to Elizabeth Taylor, embodies a certain image. Blonde hair, blue eyes, a vision of European beauty far from historical accuracy. The real Cleopatra, of Macedonian Greek ancestry, also had African heritage. The consequences of Hollywood's misrepresentation of ancient Egypt are far-reaching. It's not just about historical inaccuracies, it's about the insidious way in which this false narrative bleeds into our understanding of culture, race, and identity. The whitewashing of ancient Egypt has paved the way for the casual appropriation of Egyptian culture. We see it everywhere, from fashion runways to music videos, where ancient symbols and imagery are stripped of their context and used as exotic props. This appropriation wouldn't be possible without the foundation laid by Hollywood. By disconnecting ancient Egypt from its African roots, it has made it easier for people to divorce this culture from its origins and claim it as their own. Hollywood has a lot to answer for. For decades, it has peddled a false narrative, a whitewashed vision of ancient Egypt that has taken root in our collective imagination. But it's time to break free from those cinematic shackles. It's time to look beyond the silver screen and discover the truth. The real Egyptians, the architects of pyramids, the inventors of mathematics, the philosophers who pondered the mysteries of the universe, were dark-skinned Africans. Do your own research, challenge the narratives you've been fed, and join us as we reclaim the truth about ancient Egypt and celebrate the brilliance of African civilization. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest content.